If you are enjoying this podcast and other podcasts on the Dragon Wagon Radio Network, be sure to check out the Dragon Wagon Shop. Awesome t-shirts and mugs from your favorite shows so you can tout your podcast pride all while supporting your favorite podcast network. And make sure to check it often for new items and limited time designs. Shop now at dragonwagonradio.com/shop and get your dragon swag on.
That noise you hear.
I don't know if they'll hear it.
They might not. Which is probably a good thing, honestly.
Oh,
That's
Jesus.
going to show up. That's a baby.
When we said Steve could be on this week's podcast, we expected the baby to be far away from us, but
I can move it. Like,
that's all right.
Come here, little man.
Can't you just leave him at home?
Up.
Do they have to stay warm or something? Just leave him in the oven or something.
Whoa,
just
man.
Just set it at a low temperature.
Welcome back to another episode of this week's The Hell With This.
In beautiful sunny Van Nuys, California.
Beautiful Technicolor.
Beautiful, breezy.
Full with baby jokes.
Easy breezy, beautiful.
And
Steve Phelan is with us.
We have a guest, Mr. Steve Phelan.
It's been a while.
It has been a minute.
What was the last one you did? Scarecrow?
Was it Scarecrow or was Rumblefish first?
Rumblefish was first.
Or was that...
No, I think you've done
then
We also did we do the in-laws too?
We did the In-Laws. We did Last Action Hero.
Yeah.
You've done more than... You've done 3 or 4.
Yeah, but the last one I think was Scarecrow.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Which,
Oh, I don't... It may have been actually Rumblefish. Not that it matters, because that was over at my place.
because that was the first time that I'd seen your place, since you'd moved.
Yeah. Steve, I think your baby is revolting. This is the first time
he's revolting.
We've had 4 people on the podcast today. 3.5, actually. Mr. Steve Phelan, this is like a full journey for you as a character on this podcast, because before you were talking
I was talking about the embryo adoption situation, and then we shifted over to foster care, and
eventually you just took somebody's baby.
You've actually stolen a child.
It's from Foster Park, so there you go.
It's not a judgment call.
Foster baby.
You want to tell us about this stolen baby that you have?
I can't really tell you too much. In fact, I'm just going to leave it be as this is one of 2 that we have, and enjoying every minute of it, even though I'm totally tired. Nah, he's a good little dude, loving it, having fun.
Steve may or may not be covered in poop right now.
We will be soon.
Whatever that off smell is that we're smelling.
Is it still here?
This might be Steve.
I think it's fine.
No, he is fine. He is fine.
Yeah.
But no, he does. He has these phantoms, man. Like these farts that you're just like, oh my gosh, I need to change them. Then you go and you're like, there's nothing there.
He tricked you.
Yeah.
The phantom killers. How you been?
Been good. Been busy as far as the kiddos are concerned. Done some dub work here and there, some stage work here and there, but other than that, right as rain, man.
Mark,
same old shit with me.
Mark has nothing to add to that.
Nope.
How about you?
Yeah, I think Mark and I have been talking a lot about how we're excited to have nothing to do right now.
Very cool.
I've got 1 week left of unemployment before the next job starts. Man, I wish I could do this all the time.
Because you're supposed to be working this week too, aren't you?
I was supposed to be, but it got pushed back.
I'm just excited that we're finally getting to a movie that we've been waiting to watch for quite some time with you, Mark Heiliger.
Mm-hmm. And I have not made a point of seeing it on my own because I just feel I'm afraid of seeing this movie because I might not like it and it's going to let you guys down and I don't like doing that.
Well, okay, let's pump the brakes on that first because the movie we're going to force Mark to watch today is called Paris, Texas.
Oh, so good.
And we've already seen one Wim Wenders movie.
Did you watch Wings of Desire?
We watched Wings of Desire.
Now that one I had a hard time with.
It's a little sluggish to begin with. I've honestly, admittedly, had problems watching Paris, Texas recently.
Oh, really?
It's a little
doesn't
Slow?
quite.
It's very slow in the beginning. Yeah, it's very slow because these are movies that are both Wings of Desire and this were kind of made without a script.
Oh, great.
They had a script, but they were gradually kind of put together piece by piece. If I remember correctly, Sam Shepard, who wrote Paris, Texas, was sending pages to them like overnight, like.
Oh, seriously?
And they
So
were.
This is Sam Shepard, the playwright and actor. Sam
Yes.
Shepard.
Yeah.
Okay.
May he rest in peace.
And I mean, this film took Cannes in what, 1981?
84.
84. Sorry, yeah. What
Yeah.
was 81?
You
The
apologize again, and you make it sound like you mean it.
Sorry.
This was
That's
84.
better.
84? I'm so stupid.
Okay, don't.
81. What was I thinking?
You're chewing up the scenery now. That's enough.
Ooh.
Before we go to Paris, Texas, what do you think of The Irishman? You're such a huge Pacino fan.
Oh yeah. I'm a huge fan of it. I love it. I could watch it all day, every day. I
All
don't
three
think
and a
that
half hours, you could watch it again and again.
Oh yeah, yeah. I just every time I watch it, I have no problem going all the way through. I was really worried actually about the aging effects, the de-aging effects.
Yeah.
I actually saw it in the theater when it came out here. What was it? November 1st was when it had its limited release.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, I was down by UCLA at the theater there, and I saw it on the big screen, and I was really surprised at, all of a sudden you do notice the de-aging effects, and you're like,
Because it still looks
Whoa.
like an old guy playing
yeah,
young.
yeah. But at the same time, a part of me was like, it doesn't detract too much. The thing that detracted a lot for me was I was really kind of surprised at how hard it was for me to believe Robert De Niro had blue eyes. Like that was
Right.
But what I found interesting was, yeah, like you had said, like watching it over again, I get to the point where I feel like, they still move like they're older.
Yeah.
And that's
You mean to tell me that Robert De Niro kicking the crap out of somebody on the curb, looking like...
Yeah, he kind of reminded me of my pop-up when he
Yeah.
tripped on my toys one day and decided to kick
Came
them
over
out
and
of the
beat the
way in
crap out
a
of you?
fury.
Oh, okay.
It was
Yeah,
just kind of... But no, I mean, I love the movie. I think Pacino had a lot of... He was able to play a character that he's known for, which is, in many ways he has high status, but then at the same time, when he's the lovable loser, you find that your sympathies move with him, and especially towards the third act of the film, like your heart begins to break for this relationship that's been built by these two men, and what ends up happening in the end. Which, spoiler alert, read your history books.
Yeah.
Wait, what happens to Jimmy Hoffa?
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
But this is a theory.
It was kind of interesting to portray Hoffa in that way.
Yeah.
As someone who's kind of like just a chess piece who refuses to be a chess piece.
Yeah. And the other thing was, like, with regard to that, I mean, watching some of the Hoffa videos that are out there, I was like, yeah, Pacino wasn't really worried about being matching Hoffa, but he was... there's something about that man. I think Chaz Palminteri said he has the 2-hour face. Like, you can just watch him for 2 hours with no problem.
Right,
and
right.
I do believe that. Now, it wasn't necessarily his face.
It was a version of his face.
It was a version of his face.
Have either of you seen the Jack Nicholson Hoffa?
I've
have.
seen scenes of it, but I have not seen him.
Directed by Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I literally was watching like some YouTube video, and they were talking about the different, like, the most successful hits in film history, and yeah, where Frank Whaley kills Nicholson as Hoffa was one of them.
And then they immediately like roll him into the back of a truck and drive off. And
Spoiler.
And that was the thing. Like I was just like, wow. I totally see Jack Nicholson as James Hoffa.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'd even buy Pacino as him, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, but I also haven't watched YouTube clips on Hoffa to see
Right.
how he actually was. But
I kind of wish that they had gotten Jack Nicholson out of retirement to do Hoffa again.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. There have been some
I don't think he's going to.
yeah.
come out of retirement?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's possible.
No.
I haven't heard anything.
What? I mean, Nicholson's been in retirement
For 10 years, right?
Well, ever since The Departed, yeah.
I think
He did one other film with Paul Rudd.
He's like, fuck this
with
shit,
Paul
I'm
Rudd.
done.
Yeah, and it didn't go so hot.
This guy
And
is
that was
Ben
it.
Affleck. These guys lied to me.
It wasn't Bucket List.
No.
That was Morgan Freeman. I don't know.
That was terrible.
I don't know what movie you were referring. I thought The Departed.
I
was
can't
it.
even remember the name of it, but apparently it was some throwaway. Like, I think even Netflix balked at it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, pretty rough situation.
They'll take anything.
It really is. It is unfortunate. At the same
Yeah.
time, though, there's something to be said about watching an actor know when their time is up,
Yeah,
as opposed to just watching them
or finding
become something bumbling and
finding roles that work for them.
yeah.
You know.
Well, actually, that reminds me. There's a movie. Speaking of Paris, Texas, and Harry Dean Stanton. Didn't Harry Dean Stanton he did a movie right before he passed away that's supposed to be fantastic.
Really?
Yeah. He just died last
And,
year, and he did his
Was
last
that only?
movie.
No, it was not.
Feels like 3 years
three
ago,
or 4 years ago at least.
I thought I just looked this up. Maybe
Was
he
it?
died in 2018, but I thought
Did
just
he
died
and Sam
last
Shepard
year.
die the same year?
It was close. I think it was separated by a year or two.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember I was just like, oh man.
We don't do research. I thought we've been over this.
Oh, that's
No.
right.
Yeah, I think Harry Dean Stanton did a movie within like the last year and a half of his life when he was 90 years old.
Yeah, it looked great. Although I'm sure, was he 90? He looked like he was 70.
He died at 91. That's what I do remember.
Really?
from
Harry
reading
Dean?
Up on it.
I
Yeah.
thought. I mean, I just assumed that everybody from Alien, that whole cast, they all look like they're already 70 when they shot the movie, even though they were all they were just in their prime.
Right.
But they all looked like they were ready for the grave already.
Yeah.
Yaphet Kotto?
Well, maybe not Yaphet, but the alien thought otherwise.
Yeah.
Now, would you say that this is your favorite Wim Wenders film?
Yes. Although Wings of Desire has grown on me quite a bit, and I hate to undersell how much I love this movie.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we don't want to undersell that.
No, I mean, I feel like, because I haven't watched it all the way through in a while. Like, I've watched the first half of
Same.
it several times
Yeah.
since the last time I watched it all the way through, and at some point there's kind of a shift in the movie, and it starts to pick up a bit more. But the whole pace of the movie is based on the character, really, at the same time, because the character's kind of going through the same pacing. Not to get into spoiler territory or anything like
Yeah.
that, but
Well,
I think
I mean, I've seen a couple scenes from the movie just completely without context. I have no idea what's happening. All I know about the movie is that he's a guy who's like trying to find his lost daughter or something.
no.
Okay.
Well,
That's what I heard.
It's not terribly different, but it's
I have a special set of skills.
not taken. Not a kidnapped daughter.
We took in the prequel. Harry Dean Stanton.
people love this movie though. I mean, Steve and I love this movie. I know everybody who likes it absolutely loves it.
Yeah, the first time I saw it, and I was really pampered. Like, I saw it when I was at university in Iowa, and I got to see a 35 mil print of it. I was just like, oh.
Well, I think the first time I saw it was like on a DVD that you owned or something in our apartment, because I think I watched it the first time with you.
Are you serious?
I think so. And it wasn't like the best experience, if I remember correctly, but it
lingered.
No, it still impacted me just the same. It's just
you mean
the video quality was terrible at the
conditions
time.
wasn't great.
And then I remember at some point they did a remaster, and it was like the colors just suddenly popped.
Yeah.
And everything looked gorgeous. And then Criterion did the version that we're gonna watch,
Right.
which looked even better.
Now, have you seen An American Friend?
No,
The American Friend?
I have not, but I wanted to.
Yeah,
That's another Wim
Wim Wenders.
Also
I
on Criterion.
highly recommend it. Also on Criterion.
Isn't
Who was in
it?
that one?
Until the End of the World just came out on Criterion as well.
Oh yeah.
So I still need
But
to
that's
check
like
that one
4
out.
hours long with William Hurt.
Oh, really? It's 4 hours?
Yeah.
Huh. Buckle up, buckaroos.
It's because that one's like a futurist movie or something. Set.
Yeah.
They shot it in the 80s or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you? Now, Mark, did you like Wings of Desire? I seem to
I-
remember you enjoyed it.
I liked it. It's such a good idea for a movie that whatever stylistic choices I wouldn't have made myself. Like, it is a very slow paced movie, but it has enough funny moments going on. You got Peter Falk keeping things interesting.
I love
Like
it so
yeah, it's a very interesting movie. It's not
know
one
you
that I
hate
want to go back and
Caballero.
watch over and over again.
Right.
But it's good.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I felt about it the first time I saw it. I think the second half of that movie like really affected me more, and the same with this one. Like this second half of this one, everything kind of comes together like for a very powerful kind of punch.
Yeah.
So
Like that, Wings of Desire felt like it existed in the heads of the characters we're seeing. Not least reason why is because we can hear their thoughts
yeah,
through most of it. But that was just like how the movie felt. Like we were just kind of drifting through this angel's existence.
yeah. No,
You don't
man.
agree, huh, bud? He's like, you don't understand.
Audiences.
He's
I am
pounding
the
his fist.
reincarnation of Harry Dean Stanton. You're getting this all wrong.
All right, so why don't we'll pump the brakes on this. We'll come back.
Yep.
We'll see what Mark thinks,
Yeah.
and
And
then
we'll have some stories, I'm sure. I've got one.
I don't think much, guys.
I have one Paris,
I
Texas
can't
story
fill
for
out the
you.
rest of this
really?
podcast with my
That should be
thoughts.
interesting. I don't have any stories.
Yeah.
I have none. All right.
When I first saw you this time at Waltz, I was hoping to show you that I was your father. You showed me I was.
How can I have two fathers? Just lucky, I guess.
I could never heal up what happened. I can't even hardly remember what happened. It's like a gap.
Have you seen Jane or talked to her? We thought you were dead, boy.
How long have I been gone, do you know? 4 years. Is 4 years a long time? It is for a little boy.
There will be no safety zone. I can guarantee you the safety zone will be eliminated.
What's out there? I gotta go away now,
Why?
because I'm gonna find her.
How's it going?
I want to find her too.
I knew these people. They were in love with each other.
She's leaving the vein.
He was kind of raggedy and wild. She was very beautiful, you know? And he loved her more than he ever felt possible.
The winner of the Golden Palm at the Cannes Film Festival and one of the most acclaimed films of the decade.
Harry Dean Stanton, Nastassja Kinski, Dean Stockwell, Aurore Clément, and introducing Hunter Carson.
Paris, Texas.
Is there something, I don't know, is there something I can do for you?
Paris, Texas.
Well, we're back. We don't know what the hell happened with Mark. I think he might be dead.
That morose romance from Sam Shepard probably got to him.
Yeah. 2.5 hours of, long scenes.
Long scenes, broken hearts, broken people.
Where did he go?
I love that movie. It's the exact kind of movie that my wife would totally hate. Like, I've never shown her Paris, Texas.
Oh, Orla and I tried to watch this, and she did not last very long.
No.
When I tried to tell her what movie we were gonna watch today, she did not even remember watching the first hour of this, and it was only like 2 months ago.
It is kind of like two movies. The first hour and a half is all about Al from Quantum Leap And
Kind of, yeah. Dean Stockwell. Yeah.
Dean Stockwell, yeah. Oh, Harry Dean Stanton and
Ooh.
Dean Stockwell.
Yeah.
Starring
It was
the Deans.
Rain Man before Rain Man. Like
Yeah,
that
almost.
movie, pretty much. I mean, even the whole airplane situation and so funny.
Only this guy is not exactly a savant.
No, he's
He
just
just
broken.
doesn't know how to
He's a
deal with people at all.
broken man that slowly kind of finds himself.
So initial thoughts, Mark, since you're the one who hasn't seen it yet.
Oh, you're putting all the pressure on me now to say something
No,
relevant.
not necessarily. I mean, the
I-
score out of 10.
8.
8. Wow. Okay.
And maybe it could go higher if I watched it again later after I've like processed more of it.
Yeah.
The acting is so good in this movie. I know. The story itself, I feel like this doesn't have to be a 2.5 hour movie.
No,
They could
not
have gotten
necessarily.
through this a little bit quicker. There's a lot of it. It's really front loaded with Harry Dean Stanton not speaking to Dean Stockwell, his brother. And it did feel like, okay, he's gonna leave the hotel. He's gonna go wandering off on his own again. I think we get it. We don't have to see every moment of that. But overall, like, yeah, it's a guy who, I guess we're in spoiler territory now anyway. A guy who realizes what a bad guy he's been and what he's lost because of it. And he basically devotes his life to fixing that, if it's even fixable.
Well, once he kind of snaps out of it.
Once he snaps out of it, like, yeah, he's been, I don't know how long their relationship went, but he's been missing from his family's lives for 4 years, out in the desert. We don't know what he's been doing. First time we see him, he's wearing a suit.
Yeah.
But it's like a real grungy suit.
Thank God he had a red hat on,
I
because
know.
his brother had to find him like 10 times in the desert.
He's got to have sunburned ears, though, for sure.
Yeah. I'm sure Harry Dean Stanton lost a few years off his life just wandering in that desert.
Yeah, what did he die of? Oh, skin cancer? But it's that sort of story of a guy who becomes truly single-minded in his quest. It reminded me a lot of The Straight Story, David Lynch movie.
Yeah.
And
Which I still need to see.
It's a good one.
It's hard to
Yeah.
find. Like,
It is.
Is
It
it even
wasn't
on
exactly a huge
Blu-ray?
hit. I don't think it's on Blu-ray, but it's out there. I think it's on DVD at least.
Could probably stream it.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, it's probably rentable.
Is it? Let me ask you this, because I've wondered sometimes watching it more recently. Is it a little preachy?
Preachy?
I'm asking both of you this. Is it preachy in the sense where, you know, they've got like the 15-minute monologues, you know, towards the end of the movie when he's like, "Here's how I saw our life as basically your abuser."
Yeah.
You know,
I feel
and,
like it's
The guy who tied a bell to your ankle so you couldn't run away.
Yeah, chained you to the Westmore, whatever.
I feel it's verbose. I wouldn't call it preachy necessarily.
Preachy
because
would mean it's on a pedestal and it's trying to like proclaim something and you better listen.
yeah.
It's
The
not
one thing-
exactly a
Well, he
message
kind of
movie.
is. He's presenting it from a point of view of not like he's saying what she was feeling. He's saying what he was feeling. Like he's taking a lot of presumption in that.
There is a lot of presumption in it, but at least she has a chance after that to tell her own story.
Yeah, barely. He was about to leave before she was like, "Don't go."
I guess. I thought it was really telling though. He couldn't face her while he told their story.
Yeah.
He's so ashamed of who he was that he couldn't bear to look at her.
Sure. Yeah.
While going over all this stuff again. And then same thing when she tells her story, she sits down against the wall facing away from the window.
Mm-hmm.
They never look at each other when they go over that stuff, and I'm not really sure what that means.
Yeah,
I think it
and
means
you're
they
referring to the peep show aspect, which
Yeah.
is it in my opinion is ingenious. Like
Yeah.
the idea of these scenes, these huge monologues, and these two characters that you haven't seen each other in years, finally getting to meet up, basically in like a
they
jail.
can't hug or
It's like a
whatever.
jail
It's not
format, you know. It's like you're seeing each other on two sides of glass, but it's like this weird.
They're private, but
Altered
they're still
version of it.
separated, and it's
The juxtaposition of a place where you're supposed to be exposed in a completely different way.
Mm-hmm.
But even in that sense, you don't get to know the real person because that's supposed to be the illusion. But here they are, two people not looking at each other, exposing their full selves to each other and coming to terms with what it was that their crazy love brought them to, which, I mean, whether or not you consider it love, obviously there was a passion that they had for one another, and
Right.
like most of
It's
Sam
definitely
Shepard's
an
work.
intense relationship they had.
Yeah,
He
something,
said even going to the grocery store was an adventure.
exactly. It just becomes all consuming, and then there's that side of it that just becomes, that destroys the person. It's I don't know. Have you, when it comes to relationships, were you guys ever the jealous type?
Not really.
No, not really.
Because that's where
I'm the lazy
that
type.
hit me. Like I was always a very jealous guy.
Are you insecure, Steve?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know. It was just one of those things where like I could always hear the time ticking in the background, and I was always worried of losing this amazing, beautiful thing that I had. Until it actually became right, and then I was just like, okay, we got time. But before that, like, I could totally, I understood the pain that he was going through. I felt, I would never have done any of the things that he did. Bear in mind, or that he said that he had done. But I mean, at the same time, like the two of them were obviously. They did everything they could to try to run from this thing that became toxic.
Yeah.
He was trying to actually maintain it, but then she almost kills him. So
Yeah. And I think it's clear from their final scene together, like they don't belong together.
Yeah.
And I think by keeping them physically separated, there's never even a chance of that happening.
At least they recognize that.
Yeah. I think a lesser writer would have done all that stuff very differently.
Yeah.
And it would have had more of like a romantic comedy feel to it. Like, can't you see? We've always been in love with each other. It's not that.
We're a mess, but it's our mess.
Right.
Let's get back together.
Yeah.
For the son of ours.
This is not more realistic in the sense that very few people have the kind of insight into themselves that these two have.
Mm-hmm.
But at least it's more realistic in that it hasn't been melodramatized or romanticized at all.
Well, I think it's been romanticized. I don't think it's too melodramatic, but I don't know. That one of the things I want to talk about is like, do you think it shows? I mean, it's definitely an 80s film. Are there things or elements of the movie that you think are a little dated?
I felt like it was
Haircuts.
more of a 70s movie, to be honest.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, it does feel like a 70s movie. Just the palette of the whole thing feels like late 70s.
Well, you've got a European director
Yep.
basically directing an Americana film.
Uh-huh.
Which is unique in itself because how often did that happen?
Well, if you're a Wim Wenders fan, you know quite a bit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and he's known for doing these road trip movies. He's got a whole trilogy of them that I haven't watched.
Yeah, I want to get into those too.
Oh, what are they?
Which
called?
I've heard are very. It's like the. Even the name of his
James
company
Taylor in one of them, or
It's
maybe
called their road trip trilogy or something.
something
German.
like that. Yeah.
I've heard, like, he's always got these interesting scenarios for how characters meet up. My old boss that was talking about how in one of the movies there's these two characters and they meet because there's this really long shot of this guy just walking on the side of the road or standing or doing something, and he sees a car coming, and he's just this long shot. He's watching this car, watches the car, camera's panning, watches the car flies off a cliff and crashes into a lake. Crashes into a lake, and the guy's like, oh shit, and runs over there and like pulls him out, and that's how like these two characters meet each other, and the whole rest of the movie is about the two of them. So I really want to see that one. I don't know what movie that is, but it sounds like a great way to
start a film.
Introduce. Do you feel like
this has not a similar beginning, but it does start with this guy just appearing out of the desert. Like we start in the super wide shot of the buttes and everything, and then we just see Harry Dean Stanton walking with his nearly empty jug of water, and instantly you want to know more. What is he doing out there? Where did he come from? Where's he going?
Yeah.
And that's a hell of a start to a movie. It doesn't have to be action-packed to be interesting and pull you in.
Right. Well, it's very much we're witnessing the movie unfold in front of our eyes per shot, as opposed to it being forced upon us.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Here's just a mental experiment to look at the power of Harry Dean Stanton. I don't want to pick on any particular actor, but let's imagine the opening of this movie with, say, Josh Gad instead of Harry Dean Stanton. Would it be nearly as interesting?
Why you gotta do Josh Gad like that?
Pick anybody. Pick anybody else.
Steve's looking at me like, who's Josh Gad?
Oh, I know Josh Gad.
Okay.
But I think Josh Gad's from Iowa.
I
think he went to Washington High School in
I
my
don't even
hometown.
think Josh Gad is a bad actor at all. He's just a certain kind of actor.
Yeah, I think...
But I don't think everybody has the presence to hold your attention on
he
screen.
Almost has
the way Harry Dean Stanton.
He almost has a Buster Keaton sort of visual style to him, you know? Buster Keaton was always kind of like, although there's that slapstick comedy, the humor, the physics, he always had that kind of, that sort of bittersweet look on his face, that kind of down, like sort
and it
of...
was just his face.
Yeah.
It's not something he did necessarily.
No, it's just who he is.
It's just who he is. I mean, we were saying before, in the opening segment, in 1979, in Alien, he looked like he was 60 years old.
Right.
Harry Dean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is 5 years after that.
Right.
He just seems like he's always had miles
He's
on
weathered.
His face.
Weathered for sure.
And when he's looking through a photo album and he points out a picture of himself when he was younger, and I'm like, fuck, that's the only time I've seen Harry Dean Stanton without wrinkles.
Well, that's why that was the first time I was like, oh shit, he actually did look young at one point. Like maybe he is actually.
You'd have to
his
go
age.
back to what he was also in Rebel Without a Cause, right?
Was he?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
I don't
Dennis
remember.
Hopper was in there. I think
Yes.
Harry Dean was in it too. And of course, he was in The Godfather Part 2.
And
but I mean, just he's that for the most part. He's just that. Oh yeah, you know the guy from The Thing.
He's he's like a character actor who has a lot more.
He's not in The Thing.
Yeah.
He has a lot more to give than your typical character actor who just kind of does little spots.
But
Escape
even
from New York.
Yeah,
Escape from New York. Okay.
But just the idea that he's one of those faces that if you aren't well versed in Hollywood film, like his face will pop up and you'll be like, oh wait, I thought I remember him from that one movie and that thing that he did with that. Wasn't he the father in that, or wasn't he the detective in that? And then all of a sudden, boom, Wim Wenders decides this is my leading man.
Yeah.
And oh my God, what an actor's dream! I cannot imagine. Like if all he ever did was this movie, come on.
And even for the first part of the movie, when he's hanging out with his brother and his wife, he doesn't even feel like the lead character of the movie still. It feels like Dean Stockwell's film trying to figure out what's been going on with his brother.
Right.
And then halfway through, they fuck off back to Texas to try and find his old lady friend.
Did they fuck off, or does he... I mean, he willingly kidnaps the kid. Although
the kid wants to go.
I
wonder legally how that would fly.
And that's the thing. Like
he's in school now.
The story that we see is beautiful and tragic, and
in real life, this would not pan out this way.
Yeah, but then in real life, you're
maybe
like,
in the 80s it would have.
Amber Alert.
Yeah, what happens to Anne and her husband, and like what's the fallout
so
there?
brutal.
I was hoping that we would at least come back to them near the end of the movie to
That's
see.
the sequel, Paris, Texas 2.
Oh man, even Texaser.
I mean, they made Goodbye, Farewell, or wait, what was it? So Long?
No, Far Away, So Close.
Far Away, So Close was a sequel to Wings of Desire.
Oh, okay, yeah. I heard about that.
Also starring Nastassja Kinski.
Nastassja.
Nastassja. Daughter of Klaus Kinski, we should mention.
Which blows my mind. I didn't... Of course that makes sense. You know, with a name like Kinski.
Well, she's way prettier than he ever was.
If she can put up with him as her father, she can put up with Harry Dean Stanton's character in this movie.
Do you remember the poster that I had of Paris, Texas?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So when Chad and I lived together, I went to Amoeba. I had bought the Italian poster of Paris, Texas, and I had it hanging.
How do you say Paris, Texas in Italian?
Paris, Texas.
Oh.
Anyway, but this is back even before I was temping at Fox. Like, I was doing double time. I was working at a restaurant and a hotel, and I was also working at a Starbucks. And while I was working at this Starbucks, one night, like, this is when I was doing both of those jobs hand in hand, and I was just kind of unraveling. And it was about, I don't know, it was about like 9 o'clock at night. We were like literally getting close to closing time. And this woman comes in with this little girl, and, you know, she's looking around, and she's looking at the board, you know, and she says, "Oh, do you have any drinks for little girls?" And I'm like, "Lady,
Shirley Temple.
it's a Starbucks. Like, we've got like milks and stuff. Like, what do you, you know?" In my brain, and I know I was probably not as cordial as I can certainly be, because I was just at the end of my rope. So anyway, I finish up that long, grueling night, and I you know, try to not be as rude as possible on this transaction, but I know I'm a complete dick.
Slamming the register.
Go home, sitting there watching TV, and I'm looking at this poster next to the TV, and I double take, and it's a picture of the main climactic scene in Paris, Texas, and you're seeing it where you're seeing her point of view. Like, you can see her
in the mirror too.
You can see her looking at Harry Dean Stanton.
Okay.
So it's a split diopter shot.
Yeah, the split diopter shot. And I just look at her, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, oh, shit. I was just a dick to Nastassja Kinski. I'll never forget that.
Only you, Steve.
Only me.
Only you would be.
And her daughter.
And her daughter. Yeah, how do you...
She just wanted something to drink, Steve.
That was generational.
Something without
I feel so bad about that. Oh my
okay.
gosh.
I forgive you.
I don't know if she will.
Nastassja, if you're listening, he's sorry.
I'm sorry.
Are movies like this made anymore?
God,
and
no.
if this movie
were
not
to
come
in
out,
Hollywood anyway.
If this were to come out in the theater, A, who would be the director, and B, would it do anything?
I think it could certainly be made as an indie thing, but I don't know who the director would be, because I don't really follow indie film as much as I maybe should.
I don't know who the audience would be necessarily.
Wim Wenders fans,
I guess.
It's Wim Wenders, not Wim Wenders.
Yeah, I know how to speak German, Chad.
Seeing the credits, I saw the first assistant director was Claire Denis.
Oh, no kidding.
Who directed High Life most recently.
Yep.
I don't think I'd ever really looked at the credits.
I mean,
So
I only know about...
years later. Has Claire Denis made other things before? High
Plenty,
Life?
yeah.
Okay,
Plenty.
I'm familiar.
But Robbie Mueller just blows my mind. Like, I don't think I've ever seen shots of, like, you watch these days any sort of exchanges inside cars, and you know exactly what they're doing, and it's just like, oh, this is how they have to light it in order to make it work because it's a car scene.
Mm-hmm.
But you're watching the way he shoots the conversation scenes in these cars. And, oh my God, it's just some of the most beautiful cinematography where that's concerned.
I really like the shot looking back at Harry in the back seat.
Yes.
That's such a good shot. I mean, they are driving down the middle of the road, but hey, we needed good composition, so drive down the middle of the road.
It's it might be the first and last time I've ever seen split diopters used in cars.
Yeah.
To achieve that double focus it looks fake to your eyes.
Right?
Now you look at it and you're like, wow, this is like a bad
this is a terrible split screen.
rear projection comp, and yet because they've aligned the split diopter properly, you don't really catch exactly where the split's happening. So you can see the background off the side of the car. Like I'm thinking when the camera's on the hood looking,
it's all nice and sharp in the clouds.
In on each side of the car.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can see the highway perfectly in focus off to the side, and then you see the driver also perfectly in focus, but you can also see it's a little shallow, like focus wise. So it's this weird optical effect that I've never seen in cars before. They use it a couple times. They use it inside the car when they're looking at out the front windshield, and you can see the rearview mirror. Optically, those are two different, looks. But yeah, they use it so many times. I thought that was really a fascinating way to see it. But it seems like you were asking, like, how do they get everything so green? Like, the lights look so green.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing they shot on like a daylight film, and then they
could have
probably threw 20 filters on the lens.
If they didn't have a full story or screenplay when they were making the film, they may not have known what they were going to shoot that day. And they were just like, well, we know we're out here during the daytime, so let's get a bunch of daytime stock, and had to use it even when it got darker.
But it feels so well designed, like the different shot. Like, there's so many, like, okay, this scene is red. Okay, this is significant here. Here's the blue area. Like, we've got the blue car, and we've got that blue mural with this Lady Liberty.
I wondered there's very production design, very art design stuff,
so
and yet
good.
it seems very off the cuff. Like, oh, let's go shoot at this hotel.
Seems like
it doesn't seem like it's overdone. It seems authentic somehow, and I don't know. Just this whole film makes I think, Texas and Los Angeles, United States, feel like a completely different environment than any other film that you watch them in.
Mm-hmm.
There's one scene where Harry Dean is walking past the screaming man on the overpass.
Yeah.
I
don't know what exactly he was screaming about. I couldn't make out most of what he said.
He was talking about how, like, the world is basically coming to an end. There's no place that's going to be safe. Everyone's
you can call me crazy, but I tried to warn you.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy. And the way Harry deals with that guy, he, like, stops and he's kind of going, I just want to walk around him and keep going. But then as he passes, he kind of pats him on the shoulder. Screaming man never stops. Doesn't even really fully acknowledge Harry is there. He's busy doing his thing.
I mean,
is he acknowledging, like, that he was kind of close to becoming that?
I think so. The way he pats him on the shoulder, it's like, people think I'm crazy too.
Uh-oh. I hear the baby's awake.
He's doing his impression.
Well, we got through 23 minutes of the podcast.
There's the screaming man.
Let me get back towards the microphone. I kind of read it for the first time in a different way, Mark, because it was like, I felt like Harry Dean is looking at this man and recognizing that that's where he used to be. That's how he used to be, but he's beginning to pull himself back together again.
Yeah.
And so he could relate to this man, and he feels that man's pain, and he feels that man's rage because he's had that ball inside of him as well.
And instead of anybody else in Los Angeles who would either completely ignore him or be like, get off of the sidewalk, you lunatic, and call the police and all that stuff, he just lets him be.
He listens for a minute, yeah. I think it's an that moment in particular, that scene of walking across that overpass, like, it is probably the most alien of the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, scene-wise. I'm not talking like Alien the movie. I'm talking about, like, it's the only scene that doesn't feel like it belongs in the movie.
No, it's a trucking shot. It's tracking with Harry as he walks. That's one thing.
I think for me, it's the fact that he's beginning to realize that he has direction. There's a reason for him being where he is and what he's doing. And so it's kind of significant in the turn of his character.
And maybe could you see the crazy man as the obstacle he has to get around? He has to leave that part of himself behind to get on with it.
Yeah, to do what's absolutely right for the people.
And he's crossing a bridge, He's making a big change in his life.
So much symbolism.
So much. In fact, there's too much. I hate this movie.
I don't remember what else. Do you think Harry Dean Stanton appreciated this or Alien more?
I don't know. I don't know what kind of... probably this.
Yeah.
He seemed like a really...
Joe Cowboy.
Joe Cowboy. He probably thought science fiction was a little silly on some level. But that was just a job. I don't know. I haven't really read anything.
Oh, no.
Come on, dude.
First and last baby podcast.
If this is Harry Dean, if this is Harry Dean Stanton resurrected,
he's
this
trying
is
to
how
say,
he feels about this
like,
movie.
no, no.
I need to tell everyone I
Hell with
hated
you
this
guys. You're
experience.
talking
How
about
could you
Alien
say I
in
like this movie?
Should be talking about Pretty in Pink. My work in Repo Man.
Oh, Repo Man! I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
Which I haven't seen. So
Ah,
future podcasts
maybe. I mean,
of the world. Oh man,
You're really pushing
He
it.
is not happy.
You know, I gotta tell you, he did so well towards the end, but man, like, I'm gonna take care of him. You tell everybody what a horrible.
Well, that was Steve Phelan, everybody.
That's
a wrap on Steve.
We have lost Steve Phelan. Steve Phelan has left the building.
well, this is another movie like the Double Life of Veronique,
Yeah.
where I could go as deep as I want to into the meaning of the film.
I don't think you necessarily need to. It's not necessarily. It's kind of a simple movie in many aspects.
Yeah, it is very simple, and that works to its benefit. Because it doesn't like he's a European director, and Wings of Desire was very heady. And it had a lot of like poetic sequences.
Yeah.
This is pretty straightforward, and the only thing that stands out as, I don't want to say weird, but the only thing that stands out as particularly heady like that is the big monologues at the end, where these people are kind of doing emotional
And that's like
on
it's
each
like
other.
25 minutes long too. Those.
Yeah, that's the last half
whole
hour
scene.
of the film. Yeah.
I only remember that because once I was making a DVD for a party that was going to be
Oh, I saw
party
that.
scenes, and I wanted to put that scene in there, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is
It
20
goes on
minutes
forever.
long." Steve sounds like he's.
I don't know is the mic gonna pick that up? Pointed away from the door. He might be trying to drown the baby in the
I
toilet.
think the baby
I'm
has
not
a
sure.
future in podcasting. If I do say so, it's like I want to be on the podcast. I wonder what movie the baby would choose.
Baby's Day Out, I think.
Baby's Day Out, yeah.
Is there a
problem child?
Dennis the Menace. Is there like one core reason that you really love this movie? Why you have been wanting me to see this one for a long time?
I remember I love movies that that the audience isn't given what they want for a very long time, to the point that you wonder if it's going to happen. And this movie, I get the feeling, was focusing. I'm guessing that either Sam Shepard or Wim Wenders took the movie and from the idea of a peep show scene and made the rest of it from there, because there's some scenes in movies where you're like, that is such a good scene.
Yeah.
To just stumble upon that as you're writing, I would imagine would be incredibly difficult, like without having it in mind before. So
I had the opposite impression.
Oh, really?
I had the impression that they just started where they started because they knew that was a good beginning for some story about this guy.
Could have been.
And there was nothing specific when Dean Stockwell is yelling at his brother, going like, "I'm tired of the silent act. Like, you gotta tell me what's been going on." And I think they didn't have Harry Dean Stanton say anything because they didn't know yet.
Right.
And then that's why there's such a big, this is all my opinion, there's such a big change halfway through, because that's when they realized, okay, we know what the story is. He's got to go find his were they married? I don't think they were really married.
It's unclear.
It's unclear, but let's just say his wife. And we're going to like tie up this relationship. He's got a lot to atone for. And that's when the movie completely changes gears and they go back to Texas.
I will say it's been a fun experience watching Steve's life fall apart in this entire podcast.
Look, I wouldn't do it. Somebody's got to.
Steve's
but I
had
wouldn't.
a funny day. Like when we were trying to watch a movie, he like knocked over the beer. He knocked over the
Yeah, he hit the remote accidentally, and it switched like the input on the TV. It's been like an episode of Mr. Bean.
Yeah,
over here
it's been
today.
pretty funny.
And a pooping baby.
I kind of wonder if it's kind of similar to like when I was doing the Australia movie. We knew how it was going to start. We didn't know where it was going and where it was going to end. So you're thinking it was more along those lines, where it's like you just set up the beginning, and then as you're going, they figure it out.
I think they had a general idea, and maybe it was all in Sam Shepard's head, but he didn't have it down on paper in black and white,
right,
where it was gonna go. But I getting back to the whole found production design, I feel like once they started filming around Houston, they went like, "There's a lot of cool shit here. We can use this."
Yeah. One of the PAs found this great peep show. Let's go film there.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it feels like it was a very organic expansion of the opening scenes.
Yeah.
And it kind of drags for a little in the beginning because they didn't have a destination in mind.
Right.
And then once the closer we get to finding out Harry Dean's story, then the movie gets more energy, more forward momentum itself.
I will say it felt natural, though, how he, for someone who's like basically catatonic, just roaming the desert, like for him to, the onion layers like gradually come off.
Yeah, I did
and he
like that part of the
finally
performance.
it like eases perfectly into him saying, "No, I'm not ready to talk about it," as opposed to just, it took its time, which I appreciated. I mean, it did take a lot of time, and you're right. Nowadays,
I just think there were like one or two parts that we could have gone without. Like his first words, I think, are like he mumbles something about Paris, Texas.
Yeah.
Or just Paris.
So it's just Paris.
Yeah, Paris. And then they're like, "Wait, you want to go to Paris?" I've never been to Paris. I've never been to Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
And then he tells later the joke is that, nope, it's Paris, ... Texas.
Hey.
Except he forgot to put on the Texas part. So it's really not that funny. It's just really annoying for Dean Stockwell.
I would imagine if you were to present this movie now to a studio, let's say the filmmakers go out and make this movie, bring it back, present it to the studio.
Mm-hmm.
The studio would be like, "Oh my God, we have to cut an hour out of this movie."
You mean the movie as it exists, not even like here's a script.
Like, would they even recognize the genius of the movie as it exists in its final form? Or would they say, "Oh my God, we got to cut this"? Because I'm guessing, they'd be like, "Oh, we've got to change this. We need to add the music needs to be a bit more upbeat."
I mean, it's one of those impossible hypotheticals because if a major studio signed up to make this film in the first place, they better leave it alone. Or if it was something that they were seeing at Sundance,
right,
a major studio probably wouldn't buy it. I bet it would be a company like A24 or maybe even Searchlight or something like that.
But those movies that A24 makes are incredibly poppy and very stylized.
I think this would still fit.
I mean, they're very like stylized in the sense that they are kind of unique.
Yeah. Another movie I was thinking of while watching was that movie Nebraska, Alexander Payne.
Sure.
And that's another one where it's the story of this older guy, much older, Bruce Dern in that movie. He's got this single-minded focus. He's got to go collect his prize. He's won a big prize. Mm-hmm. And the payoff is like, "Oh, actually, you didn't. It's a big scam. Here's your hat." And it just feels very similar in that road trip, like family getting to know each other kind of way.
Right.
That one is a little more...
Well, Alexander Payne is for sure a director whose styles are very much like this movie. Mm-hmm. Like you said, I mean, About Schmidt was very, very much like, let's just let things play out.
There were some funny little moments in this movie, mm-hmm. but Alexander Payne, I think, leans more towards the comedy end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But I think that would be my pick, answering the question from earlier. Who would direct this movie now? Probably Alexander Payne.
I could see Soderbergh doing a movie like this.
Or Sam Raimi. But I say that about everything.
Soderbergh does some really offbeat movies. He's more of a...
Well, I've seen a lot of his recent stuff, like with the no-budget shot on an iPhone stuff.
Yeah.
They're all genre films.
Right.
Contagion,
But
Side Effects.
what I mean is he's capable of doing anything, really.
Yeah.
Genre-wise, he could pull this off.
Yes, he could.
And
I think there would be sort of a quirkiness or kitschiness to a Soderbergh version of this. There'd be something.
I thought I heard that he was doing a
fun.
movie on a cruise ship from New York to London, and they were going to figure out the plot on the cruise.
Everybody gets coronavirus and dies. That's the plot.
That's on the other side of the planet, Mark. Maybe by the time this podcast comes out, we'll all just be dead, and this will all be
Maybe this will be. Oh Jesus! What do you want your final words to be? If this is it.
Babies crying. Mark witnessing Paris, Texas. You asked me earlier what was it about this movie that made the lasting impression, and it was there's a couple things. One thing that made a huge impact on me as a filmmaker was the scene where they sit and they watch the home movies.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like a movie on itself, like just this little segment, this piece of this movie.
Yeah, and you can see the actual story of how their family is inside the footage.
Yeah,
I've had to cut a sequence like that, not like home movies, but sort of a handheld shot on 8mm kind of thing. And there was supposed to be that it had its own little through line. Mm-hmm. And there was just not really anything there in the footage for me to work with, and I was really pissed off because it was a missed opportunity. Because I wanted it to turn out something like this.
Right.
And it just ended up being very experimental looking.
Well, up until that point in this movie, before you see it, the whole movie is very dry and long.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get this little slice of like what the life could be like, what this movie could be.
And it looked very loving and warm.
And you can see,
fun.
Especially, you can see Harry Dean Stanton as he's watching it just kind of crumble on himself because now he's seeing all these old memories kind of come back.
And that's what he threw away. That's what he lost.
And his son, that's also the time when his son for the first time can see that, because his son's like watching him mostly. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of remembering, oh yeah, I do have another dad, my real dad, and witnessing their relationship. But it's also the first time we see Nastassja Kinski. Nastassja Kinski. And then we don't see her again for another 45 minutes. Right. Until they get to Houston and he finds her just kind of on a whim.
Right, they go to the bank where they know...
The only place they know she's going to be once a month.
The kid wakes up just in time to miss her at the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of a whim, isn't it? They were sleeping, then he woke up just in time.
And
it's like it was meant to be.
But I think those scenes of finding the character... like I said, I enjoy movies where you don't know if you're ever going to see somebody again. Mm-hmm. And they surprise you in a way. Because I think that kind of harkens to human emotion and like what the kind of melodrama that really can get you no matter what, you know. It's just that story of like, oh, you've got a missing friend or something, you haven't seen them in ages, and it's the feeling of seeing them again. Kind of like the ending of Shawshank.
Yes.
Where you know, I remember when they're talking about Shawshank. Spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen Shawshank, I think.
Who's talking about Shawshank?
The director, Frank Darabont.
Uh-huh.
He didn't want to put that final scene in the movie.
Oh, Jesus.
Which is like such a... Like, you needed that scene. As an audience, you needed that scene. And it's really simple. It's like one shot.
Did he want to... Oh, just that final shot.
Just the final shot of the beach.
He just wanted Morgan Freeman to, like, come over the hill and smile and cut to credits?
Well, it was supposed to be like, you know, I hope I get to see my friend again or whatever.
Yeah.
I hope. Yeah, hope. That's it. And then it was just going to roll credits from there.
Fuck, man.
So that was
I mean, maybe that would be a statement on, like... Yeah, we're all just trying to make the best of everything. We hope it'll turn out fine. But in that kind of big real emotional movie. Like you want that
to
payoff.
just end.
You
yeah.
want it to. You want the
You
guy
have
who was
to.
wrongly imprisoned for the last 30 years of his life to get the happy ending.
Even if you're the most cynical filmmaker of all time, you still have to give the audience something. Or you're really cheating yourself, I think. And even Frank Darabont said, oh, I'm so glad I listened to everybody to say that has to be in there. Because it's like the number one thing that everybody says, oh, I was so happy to see them get together. And you really just see them walk up and hug, and that's basically it.
Right.
But that's what I felt the peep show scenes were in this movie. Without those, I don't think the movie works, or at least it's not going to be as memorable all around on the whole, I think.
Well, it's not that sort of emotional. Well, it is an emotional climax. It isn't exactly a feel-good moment, but it pays off everything we've been wondering since the very start.
Right.
We finally get it. And it's, if it was a mystery movie, this would be where Sherlock Holmes tells you the entire plot all over again from the very beginning.
Which is kind of what he does.
Yeah, that's exactly what he
Peep
does.
Show.
It's just not, he's not doing it with that sort of arrogance. He's just kind of... He's telling her who is on the other side of the glass without telling her. Mm-hmm. That's all. He wanted to ease into it because he knows that to just show up and be like, ta-da, it's me, I'm back. Hey, I'm really sorry. That would be fucked up. Not good.
Right.
He's really got to make her listen. And as she gets more and more details of the story, she knows exactly who it is.
His journey... We still don't know exactly what ends up happening to him at the end. It is kind of a mystery where he ends up going at the end of it. So in some sense, we still have that open-ended, like, what happened? Like,
Right.
Does he just fuck off and roam around the desert for another 30 years?
He did promise his brother he'd return the credit cards that he borrowed at least.
So you think he just goes straight back to old Burbank and drops off the credit cards with the fam?
I don't know that he
Being
goes
like, yo, I left your
straight
kid in
back.
Texas.
It's his kid. He can do what he wants with his kid.
Well,
that's the law. You own your kids. You can give them to whoever you want.
Do we know that? I mean, do we know if you abandon your child for 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, is there some sort of right to you?
Oh my God, it's Steve Phelan.
Where'd you come from?
Hey guys, what you up to?
Hey, we just were watching a movie and doing a podcast. What you been up to? How you doing?
Basically trying to stop some friends from having a quality podcast and watching movies.
Well, that's the end of this week's Hell with This.
Well, I hope you
So
show up
sorry.
next time, Steve.
Yeah, I might. We'll see. maybe I'll spill some things. Well, who knows?
I'll keep a jar of M&Ms on the counter that you can knock over. And those will all go flying. I'll be finding those 6 years later.
So, Steve, it's been a while since you've seen this movie, right?
Yeah.
What? How does it hold up versus what it used to hold up for you?
To me, it's still just a beautiful piece of cinema. I can't stand how much I love it. Like it's like at some point when we were, I don't remember what we were talking about, but like I started tearing up looking out the window just thinking about the movie, and here we were talking in this podcast. You know, just like
I thought you were just allergic to Mark's cats, but
no, it's there's some real feels for this movie. I absolutely love it. And there's so much to unpack. It's not the most realistic of films, obviously. It's great for people who are, I think, hopeless romantics and who also like the idea of, well, in this case, I think there's a lot of, as far as like the cinematography is concerned and the environment, there's a lot of industrial decay, which I'm a huge fan of. So you get a lot of that sort of feel in the film as well. And just a bunch of mystery, a lot of you know, trying lost hearts trying to be found, you know. Mm-hmm. It's just beautiful. Something about the way it makes me feel. I can always go back to this movie.
You got anything to pitch or sell us on before we wrap
for
this
me,
up?
myself, and I right now, currently, it's just, you know, doing the daddy thing, but I'm trying to develop a short Western. I haven't done anything like that before.
Oh,
really? A buddy of mine's moving pretty soon, but he jumps back and forth. So I think we're going to try to do that. Other than that, still kind of plowing along in development for the anime series Le Gong, the Chronicles of Lei Gong. So we're getting closer. So looking forward to getting that up and running. But no, other than that, I'm just taking it day by day, trying to get as much sleep as possible.
We're here for you, man.
No, you're not.
We're here for you.
I mean, I
always
am.
here.
Like the other day when we were having sandwiches, like, hey, you want to hold him? No.
You want to hold my baby? No, not really.
let me rephrase that. We're here if you need to like talk or anything.
Understood.
Yeah, we're not offering help or anything. We're
No.
just here if you want to talk to us. It's like your own peep show.
Understood.
Just come and talk to us.
Got it. I appreciate
Or
it.
like, if I don't answer, just leave a voicemail. That's cool. I'll listen to it.
What about you, Mark?
No, I got nothing to pitch.
Should we end this?
Yes.
Sure.
All right.
This is the last episode ever. You meant the podcast, right?
Right,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
The last episode
Anyone
with
anyone
Nick
will
exists
ever
now.
listen to.
It's Dragon Wagon.
Hey listeners, Steve Phelan here. A little addendum to our episode today, because I'd be remiss, actually all of us would be remiss, in not also giving props to one of the other huge contributors to Paris, Texas, and of course that is Ry Cooder, the gentleman behind the haunting music that you're hearing in the film. I've had the soundtrack both in CD form, and I also have it in a limited edition vinyl. And just the haunting main theme and the way that the guitar comes in, it really gives a certain weight to the haunted past of our main character. And also, I think particularly in the scene where they're watching the Super 8 film, just the bittersweet nostalgia that you feel listening to the music while you're watching this family back when things were beautiful in Kodachrome. It's just something that I dig. And it's something that I'm sure Chad and Mark also feel remiss in not mentioning in the midst of our episode. But we had some complications, little bundles of joy as they were. But anyway, thanks for listening to it. And yeah, check it out. And, of course, check out the other Wim Wenders and Ry Cooder film, the one that they actually won the Oscar for, which was Buena Vista Social Club, also on Criterion. Check that out if you can. It's phenomenal. But for my money, there's just something about this particular soundtrack. So give it a listen if you haven't.